got the teeth. So they are the incisor teeth right there. Very indistinct. Right? And then they are the canines. Sharp, sharp, sharp canines. Because remember, my cats are what? They are?
Carnivores.
They're carnivores, right? I mean, these domesticated. We feed them kibbles and bits and stuff like that, but they are carnivores. Right? I can't open up this mouth because it's kind of stuck right there. But the molars are going to be very, very sharp. The edges of the molars. I use the analogy of the scissors. So the cat's molars are like the scissors because when they slice, notice what happens? They can slice through the bone and the meat. Versus the deer skull down there, the molars are flat. So they're going to be able to grind their food. Right? So you see the analogy difference. Just give me a roll of paper towels, Olivia. Thank you. Then the tongue. I'm going to try and get this fellow's tongue out here. The tongue. Have you ever been licked by your kid? If you have a cat,
That's right.
and you lick by the
Sandpaper.
the cat's tongue is like sandpaper compared to a dog. And there's a reason why, because the cat's tongue has on it those bristles right there. And in fact, a lot of these guys belong to the feline group, the feline, the cheetahs, the lions, etc. They all have those bristles on their tongue. You can feel that. Right? Actually, like I said, this cat is starting to go now, but in your cat, and those bristles are like the brush. So what is the big function of the bristles?
It's a way of grooming.
Well, that's going to be secondary. The first is when they lick against the piece of meat that they've killed, the gazelle, etc., the bristle will pull the pieces of meat apart and off. Right? So that's going to be the first thing. And then the second thing now, of course, is grooming. So they groom themselves, which means that when we get into the stomachs here, many times they swallow the hair, and that hair can't be digested in the stomachs. So notice what happens many times with cats. They actually have to have a regurgitation reflex. So they vomit up a lot because what happens is about right there in the pyloric part of the stomach is where the hair will clog that up. So they will then hairball, regurgitate that out. Yes? Okay. The glands. There's my masseter muscle right there. There's my pinna external ear, and there is the parotid submandibular gland right over there. And this cat actually has a nice parotid gland that is right there. So there's the parotid gland right there. Okay? Now we're going to take the parotid gland, and there's my jugular. And now what we're going to do is come down below the jugular. I'm going to have to open up the other side because there is the submaxillar gland that is actually full of paint right there. So I'll open up this side because the submandibular gland. So there's my parotid gland right there, and most times the parotid gland isn't all that clear. Parotid gland kind of just right there. The submandibular is actually a nice shaped gland, which in this case, notice paint have leaked into it. So I will open up this side so we can see that. So parotid gland, submandibular gland. Alright? So now we come along here, and food is passed. Leave that there for next week because we want to save the thyroid gland for next week. Alright, so there is my trachea, and right behind it is the esophagus right there. So there's my esophagus right there. And again, what I want you to do is to feel the texture of the trachea and feel the texture of the esophagus. Feels different, folks, because my trachea has cartilage rings in them, and my esophagus is just smooth muscle. So you'll feel the difference. Alright? So that's my esophagus. And my esophagus continues on down here. So there's my esophagus down there. Right there. So that's esophagus there. There's my esophagus there. There's my aorta right there. Alright? And now we pass through the diaphragm. There's my diaphragm. Right there. And there's my liver. And there's the gallbladder right there. Okay? And right there is a membrane that attaches the diaphragm to the liver. And that membrane right there is called the falciform ligament. Now look at the name, falciform ligament. And notice that does not look like a ligament or even a tendon. So that's misnamed. It's just a thin membrane. In fact, if I push that probe, it's going to go right through the falciform ligament. Not very strong at all. So it should actually have just been called the falciform membrane, is what it should be called. Right? So there's my liver. We lift the liver up, and there's my stomach right there. Right? And then you can actually see there's the esophagus coming into the stomach right there. So there's the esophagus coming into the stomach. Now, this part of the stomach by the esophagus, and that's, by the way, that's called the gastroesophageal opening, gastroesophageal sphincter, gastroesophageal hiatus. So all of those terms interchangeably, right? So there's my stomach, and that's the cardiac stomach. This curvature right here is the fundic stomach, or fundus. Then we've got the body, and then we have this little hook right here. And the little hook, that is the pyloric stomach. So there's the pyloric stomach right there. So that's the pyloric stomach right there. And then you can actually see the little indented area. And if I'm going to just clean it out there, that is the pyloric sphincter. So there's my pyloric sphincter right there, which is the nice sphincter valve between the stomach and the first part of the small intestine, the duodenum. Right? So now we're in the small intestine. Alright? So there's so all of this is the small intestine right here. All of this. There's my large intestine. There's my small intestine. Okay? The first part by the stomach, so the first part of the small intestine by the stomach is the duodenum or duodenum. So there's my stomach, pyloric sphincter, duodenum right here. And notice the duodenum is close to the pancreas, that we will see in a minute. The middle part right there is the jejunum. Jejunum. Then the last part, there's my large intestine, and flowing into the large intestine right there is the last part of the small intestine, namely the ileum. And it flows in right there. So that little hook right there, that is the cecum of the large intestine. So the valve right there is called the ileocecal valve, where the ileum flows into the cecum area of the large intestine, and there is the large intestine or the colon of the cat. In us, we have ascending, transverse, descending sigmoid colons. So in us, there's a lot more definitive pattern or parts of the large intestine. Right? Okay, the pancreas. So we said that we needed to lift up the stomach, which we did. And notice this is the omentum. That's the omentum, right? And I'll cut that omentum off here in a minute. Alright? So we lift up the stomach. There's the spleen on the left-hand side. There is the duodenum on the right-hand side. And there is my pancreas right there. So all of that gland right there is the pancreas running from across the spleen to duodenum under the stomach. Right? Oh yes, yeah, I forgot this. There's my small intestine, people. And the membrane is the mesentery right there. And there you can see branches of the superior mesentery artery. Here's the superior mesentery artery. And the brown are branches of the hepatic portal vein. There's the hepatic portal vein right there. Now, what is the big function of the mesentery right there? It holds the small intestine in place right there is what it does. Right? But this weekend, what I want everybody to do, I want you to take your hose pipe or an electrical cord, right? Your 8-foot electrical cord, 16-foot, whatever length it is. Right? And while you're watching the football or you're cooking or just playing around it, so I want you to take that cord and throw it and then pull on it. Throw it and do it 100 times. And I'm going to make the argument that sometime in that 100 that you're doing like that, what's going to happen to that cord?
The kink.
It's going to
Kink.
kink or not. And then what do you have to do when it kinks or knots?
Untie it.
You have to grab one end and kind of fit it through underneath to unknot it or unkink it. Right? Now we've been together here now in by 141 and by 142. So we've been together now. We're going to be together for either 32 weeks or 24 weeks. A long time. A long time. And how many of us in those 24 weeks or almost 32 weeks, I'm just going to kind of fast forward till the end of the semester here, right? Had kinked or knotted our small intestines?
None.
None. Then you say, okay, how old are you? I'm 25, I'm 105. How many times have you kinked your small intestine?
Never.
Never. Can it happen? It can happen. I've had one student, 1 year, that had to have surgery because that had kinked. One out of the many that I taught. So never. Now what prevents it from kinking or knotting is...
Is that like an ileus? Like a
when it
blockage
kinks.
in... Yeah.
Yeah, when it kinks, then what happens? You're tying the knot, and now what happens? Food can't pass through. So what happens to the animal out there in nature where that happens to?
They die.
They did, yeah. And she just had surgery, right? These small little cuts. Actually, they went through her umbilicus. And they went in there and just unknotted it. And it was, it was like, she came to class. I was like, oh, surgery, yesterday. Just kind of walking a little slowly, but she was fine. It was summer, one summer school down there at the Hampton campus. Right? And then finally the omentum, folks, and there's the omentum. The omentum folds over the small intestine like that. So notice what is one of the functions. It holds the small intestine intact like that. Right? The second function is, notice what is that? Fat. So it stores adipose. And then the third function, like that. So notice we close up here. Notice how much protection is here in this animal in terms of bone protection, etc. Very little. So they get stabbed all the time. And notice they fight. So animals fight, and skin and hair and stuff. So, but again, can happen. So there they are impaled on that, and what happens is there's the infection, and what happens is that omentum will actually slow down the spread of infection. It will slow it down, so it'll heal up. And hopefully it slows down. So what happens there? It heals before that infection spreads over a large area. Yes? Alright, questions on the digestive system, ladies and gentlemen. So you go ahead and have a look at that. Next week I'll have another